Welcome to Inglet Mirror. In the previous video, we have gone through the philosopher Plato, and here is a continuation of classical criticism. Today we deal with yet another towering figure of classical criticism, Aristotle. Probably you all have studied his critical masterpiece Poetics. Let me give you a short analysis of his major ideas. The ancient Greek founding father of Western thought, by contrast, is less interested in the content of literature than its forms. While Aristotle's Poetics is the first full work in the Western tradition devoted specifically to literary criticism. For Aristotle, art is a process of putting the events of nature into a medium, such as words or paint, that improves on or completes nature. Art doesn't lie, according to this view, but reveals truths in a different way than rational deduction. For Aristotle, art is not necessarily the binary opposite of reason, and thus threatening to logic and rationality. Aristotle understands that the pleasure we take in representations conveys another type of truth, not a disruptive and dangerous falsehood. For Aristotle, reality does not reside in a static, eternal world of perfect ideal forms, in relation to which the material world is a flawed imitation. Rather, reality is the ever-changing world of appearances and perceptions, the ordinary world of things and events. Within this ever-changing world, form appears only in concrete instances. Aristotle's truth, what his philosophy seeks to understand and teach, resides in discovering the rules and principles that govern how things work and take on meaning in our material world. As you might be able to tell from this description, Aristotelian thought forms the foundations for science in Western philosophy. Aristotle's science desires to catalogue and classify the things of the material world. His methods work to discover similarities and differences in form, and to deduce general principles of organization or taxonomy from these forms rather than in the specific operation of any individual. While Plato founds the tradition of moral criticism by worrying about what a work of poetry does to its audience, Aristotle founds the tradition of genre criticism by investigating what a particular work is rather than what it does. Aristotle's Poetics examines literature in terms of its internal structure. It focuses on drama, working to identify the formal properties of comedy and tragedy. Comedy, according to Aristotle, must deal with base people, with peasants and average folk, while tragedy must confine itself to the lives of the nobility. Aristotelian criticism is interested in discovering the essential qualities of each of the different kinds or forms of literature. Aristotle's artist is not just an imitator, then, but also a creator. Artists are important to Aristotle because art imposes order on what might otherwise be a disordered and chaotic natural world. Literature, in particular, imposes a particular kind of narrative order on events so that what is described in words has a beginning, a middle, and an end. For Aristotle, art and literature thus complete a process that the natural world leaves incomplete. He defines poetry as a medium of imitation that seeks to represent or duplicate life through character, emotion, or action. Aristotle defines poetry very broadly, including epic poetry, tragedy, comedy, dithyrambic poetry, and even some kinds of music. According to Aristotle, tragedy came from the efforts of poets to present men as nobler or better than they are in real life. Comedy, on the other hand, shows a lower type of person and reveals humans to be worse than they are in average. Epic poetry, on the other hand, imitates noblemen like tragedy, but only has one type of meter, unlike tragedy, which can have several and is narrative in form. Aristotle lays out six elements of tragedy: plot, character, diction, thought, spectacle, and song. Plot is the soul of tragedy because action is paramount to the significance of a drama and all other elements are subsidiary. A plot must have a beginning, middle, and end. It must also be universal in significance, have a determinate structure, and maintain a unity of theme and purpose. Plot also must contain elements of astonishment, reversal, peripecia, recognition, and suffering. Reversal is an ironic twist or change by which the main action of the story comes full circle. Recognition, meanwhile, is a change from ignorance to knowledge, usually involving people coming to understand one another's true identities. Suffering is a destructive or painful action, which is often the result of a reversal or recognition. All three elements call sense to create catharsis, which is the engenderment of fear and pity in the audience. Pity for the tragic hero's plight and fear that his fate might befall us. When it comes to character, a poet should aim for four things. First, the hero must be good and thus manifest moral purpose in his speech. Second, the hero must have propriety or manly valor. Thirdly, the hero must be true to life. And finally, the hero must be consistent. Tragedy and epic poetry fall into the same categories. Simple, complex, that means driven by reversal and recognition. Ethical, that means moral, or pathetic, that means passion. There are a few differences between tragedy and epic, however. First, an epic poem does not use song or spectacle to achieve its cathartic effect. Second, epics often cannot be presented at a single sitting, whereas tragedies are usually able to be seen in a single viewing. Finally, the heroic measure of epic poetry is hexameter, where tragedy often uses other forms of meter to achieve the rhythms of different characters' speech. Aristotle argues that tragedy is in fact superior to epic because it has all the epic elements as well as spectacle and music to provide an indulgent pleasure for the audience. Thank you for watching this video.